That's fine. If it gets ended, we can create a new one.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, can you hear me, guys?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
okay.
Okay. So what was I speaking when it got cut? I didn't realize the call got disconnected, and I kept speaking for some time. Uh,
Like you were explaining what is use of Selenium testing, why not what is the difference between JUnit testing and the Selenium testing? And you
okay.
were telling
Not
in
not the
JUnit
JUnit
generally do
testing.
not have
Not the
any
JUnit testing. JUnit doesn't really test anything.
or
Uh,
REST.
REST test.
Yeah,
Okay.
REST.
So the REST test is
Okay,
something
okay.
that you can start much early in this release, before even before the UI is developed. Okay. So yeah, I so now I remember what I was telling. So let's say, for example, the API is developed. That let's assume that you directly want to start with the UI automation. What actually happens, say one BA one day decides that okay, search button should be here and it should be named so and so, and tomorrow BA have changed that option. Like, say for example, okay, no, I don't like this button search. I don't want any button. If he types a value and presses enter, it should work. Okay.
Okay.
So what actually happens in that case? That search button goes away. So all our Selenium scripts have to change. Okay. So that's the problem with UI automation. That's why any UI automation comes much later in the phase, whereas the system test, I mean the API automation comes much early. The REST API automation, etc., and it is much faster also because there is no user interface, right? You don't have waiting time. You don't have to move the mouse and click here and wait until the page reloads and all. So the API automation is much faster and it has its own benefits. But why we still need UI automation? Because we still want to test whether the ultimate user interface is working fine or not. Okay. So even that also we have to execute in a regression fashion, etc. So now that's the primary reason why we still do the Selenium automation. Okay, so in some projects you may have to do the Selenium automation because there may not be any user interface at all. They may be simply developing a web application or with REST service. In some projects there may not be any REST API. They may be simply building a user interface. You will have to directly test on it. Okay,
Okay.
so the training, whatever training you are undergoing through, you can work for most both of the approaches. Okay, so now as you have seen, whatever I did later got recorded, right? So the same
Yeah.
way, and the target, it is giving some name to the target, and how is it actually recognizing that where to type? Okay, how is it remembering that I have typed in this? Okay, that's a mystery, right? I'll explain that in a moment. But you understood, right? When we change the slider to slow or something, and when we click play the test case, it executes all the steps in a slow fashion. Okay, and if we increase that, if you move that slider to even further right, it goes even slower. Say depending upon how fast if you want to observe what is going on the screen, you may want to make it slow. But again, making it slow means you are going to spend more time while doing the test execution, which we really don't need. Okay, so we always try to keep it faster only. We don't try to observe things, how things are going from beginning to
Okay.
ending, each step by step. But sometimes when some things go wrong, okay, we may want to do that. Okay, so now let me do something else. Okay, I don't really need these two steps, right? Okay, these two steps I just showed you to record, so I can simply right click on them and delete these commands. So each command is called as a Selenium. Okay, in Selenium, these are called as Selenium commands. Okay. Opening is a one command, click is a command, Selenium is command, click and wait is another command. I really don't need this, so I'm just deleting it. So I'm inserting. Now I want to do some testing over here. Okay. So what do I actually can do? What exactly can I do? Here it shows me many things. Okay. See, previously I recorded that, right, and it got added. That command got Selenium got added successfully. Instead, I can also try the same thing here. So if I click type, I can see that it has 4 types. Type, and where do I have to type? So now here I have to recognize, I have to tell it where I have to type. whether I have to type in this text box or whether I have to type in this text box, or are there any more text boxes? No, there are no more text boxes. So I have to tell it in which text box it has to type, right? So for that, what I can do is, I can click select here. Now it is saying select an element by clicking on it in the browser and click cancel to cancel. So now it is asking me to click on the click somewhere. Okay, so now when I click on this, it recognizes this as name equals to q. Let's assume, let's click something else. Let's imagine that we have to type here. Okay, and let's open this again.
Okay.
And it has recognized that as something id equals to blah blah blah. Okay, so
Okay.
what we can do is we can simply set a target and do whatever is actually that we have to do. So now if we type some value, say for example housing, okay, and if we type this, now if we run this test case, can you guess what happens?
In that text box, it will search for housing and give us an output.
Ideally it has to, but what actually, observe this flow. Okay, what actually is happening? I'm opening the page and then I'm clicking 4, then clicking 5, then clicking star, then clicking 3, 6, and then equals, and then I'm trying to
Okay.
type in this. But when I open this site, do I have that search box?
No. Okay.
No, right?
If we type in the search box, then only it will go to another search box. Okay.
Absolutely. So what happens when I run this test case?
It will fail.
It will fail. So let's see what it will fail with. So now if you see, it is going line by line where it is executing.
Okay.
Okay, now it is trying to execute this and it failed. Okay, so it has failed with, we can go to the log, okay, over here, and see
Mm-hmm.
what actually is happening. Now if you see, it is executing each line, right, and then it is showing error element id equals to gsc one id1 not found. Okay, which means
Yeah.
that it cannot find that search box, which is quite
Okay.
predictable, or which is quite what we have expected,
Understood.
right?
Yeah. Expected.
So, so it has. We shouldn't be alarmed by this. It is what we have expected. So now, if we change this name equals to q, okay, this was the value that was there before, right?
Yep.
So now type and wait, and then I want to click on the search box. So I am searching for click and wait, and then I'm clicking select. I'm clicking select, and I'm clicking on this search button, and then I'm typing the value of, oh no, see, there is no value for this, right? For clicking, there is only one operation, just click.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't have any operation like click with. Of course, we may have operation like click with right mouse button, left mouse button, but they are not really doable with this kind of Selenium IDE. There may be, but we don't really use those things. So click has only one thing, just click. It doesn't have any extra parameter to pass, so we don't have to type anything in the value. Okay, and then click and
Okay.
wait means it clicks the search box and it waits until the page refresh, page reload is completed. Okay, so now in this, now let's type something in this mutual funds and click on that search button. So now again, how do we do? Type. Let's. What is the target? Target. We have to select. This is the target.
Search box.
If you see, it has recorded the exact same thing. Okay, so it must be using some information that this text box already has. Don't you think so?
Yeah.
So
It
we'll
it
in a moment
accesses
we will see
the
what exact.
development code.
I'm sorry, can you say it again?
Probably it accesses the development code and gets some information from the text box, and it recognizes
Yeah, that's a good guess. We'll go over the exact thing what it is trying to do in just a moment. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So mutual funds, and then another action, another Selenium command. I want to click and wait, and the target is this search button. Now that's it. That's all I wanted to do. So now I'm putting it a little average speed, saving the test
Mhm.
case, and then I'm running it. So now if we go to the log, we should not be seeing that error. Okay, this is the previous log, that whatever that we have seen.
Yeah.
Okay, now it has clicked on it, it loaded new thing, and it typed mutual funds and clicked on it, and a new page is loaded. So test case has completed its execution. Okay, so what actually happened over here, we haven't tested anything so far. We simply are running whatever is, we are doing some operations. We cannot say we are testing. Okay, so
Okay.
let's try to test something. But you understood this concept, right? You understood whether these, how
Yeah.
we record the things. Okay, what actually happened? It has timed out after 300 seconds, 30 seconds. So, what may be the reason? Let's see if we have any extra information. Click and wait. And are we looking for something? Timed out after 300 seconds.
Maybe it is because server did not respond just within
Yeah, that can be
330
one.
seconds.
That can be one. Thing. Let's see. Let's try to execute again and see what happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Time data.
Okay. I'll look at what this error is. I'll try to find out what you guess may be the reason. It may not be able to. It is able to find this button. Otherwise, it will not be saying that it cannot find the button. So most possibly, some
Yeah.
background information may be getting loaded. That's why it was waiting forever. So it may have timed out then. I'll look at it and I'll let you know tomorrow. But you got the
Sure.
general concept of what goes on, right? Now if you see, it said this button could not be found. That means it is able to find that button, but for some reason, maybe because of some background operation that is still going on, the operation got timed out. Okay, it was the like the operation got never got completed. Let's say what happens
Okay.
if we just change it to click. It doesn't wait after we have done that. It tracked mutual funds and it got executed. So in the during the wait process, it failed, which obviously means if we changed it to click only instead of click and wait, it didn't fail, right? Which clearly
Yeah.
indicates that something is going wrong when we are waiting for that application. Okay, maybe some JavaScript,
Okay.
maybe trying to get some data using Ajax or something behind the scenes, because of which it is not
Mhm.
ready, etc. But never, never mind. We don't really need that debug that information at this point of time. Okay. So let's just
Okay.
remove these commands, whatever we have inserted so far,
Mhm.
and now, if you see, what I wanted to do is I wanted to verify whether the calculation whatever I'm getting is 1635 or not. Okay.
Okay.
So what I have to do, I have to type assert text, and element target is the value where the actual value gets displayed. So this is that one. Select, fine, click on that, and then for this it stored the SCA output as this. I want to test if the value is 1635 or not. Don't worry, 1635 is not the correct answer, but I'm purposefully giving it.
Okay.
Okay. So now let me run the test and see what happens. Now if you see the test case has failed. What actually it is showing, actual value 1620 did not match with 1635. Okay, so we are expecting it to be 1635, but it failed because it obviously is not 1635, but the correct value is 1620. Okay,
1620.
so why I am showing you the error cases in automation or in development, it's especially in automation and testing, it is more important for us to be able to understand the what is going wrong than what is going right. Okay, most of the times we'll
Okay.
be spending in debugging than rather than in the development. So it's key. You have to understand what exactly is the value that gets showed on the picture. Okay, now if it failed again, can you guess why?
Because of the dot.
Exactly.
1620.
Exactly. So we have to be sure that we give either the exact value that uh,
It is.
it has,
It.
or we have to see
Yeah.
if there is something like this deprecated assert text with an element locator instead pattern, a pattern to match with the text of the page. This checks whether something is there in the entire page or not. Assert text, let us see. Okay, now when we type a command, it is showing some information over here. Okay, what exactly it needs. Okay, so everything
Okay.
is available for you if you are using IDE, which most of the cases you won't be, but it will be checking, like it will be doing all the things, like it will be giving the information on what that command does, what it expects. Okay, if you say an element locator returns the text of the gets the text of element, this works for any element that contains text. This command uses for this. So whatever way, it actually uses something called as get text internally. You don't really have to worry about that. Now here it says a pattern. Okay, so we should be able to use a pattern. We have to be able to see if it accepts a regular expression like dot star. If it does, it may pass, or else it may fail. Or if it is having its own wildcards, etc., it may be we may have to use those. But let's just check regular expression. Yeah, it accepts
Okay.
regular expressions. In regular expression language, dot star means any number of characters, any number of times. Okay, or if we say dot, okay, only one character, and one character can be there, which if we run it again, it will still pass because dot is also a character.
Yeah.
Okay, so you are you familiar with regular expressions?
Yeah. I've learned it in my school.
Okay, so if you're already familiar with regular expression, I don't have to explain much over here.
Yeah.
Uh,
Good.
now, so do you have any questions so far?
Looks. No questions, to be very frank, because everything you explained was very clear.
Okay. Okay, let's create another test case, new test case.
Oh,
If you see, when I said new test case, it has added that test case here itself, right? Which means all
yeah.
the whatever you're seeing over here, everything is a suite. Okay, if you see, this is saying untitled suite. Okay, we haven't saved that suite
Yeah.
yet. Let us try to test some addition, and then we'll try to test some things and learn some more things in the process. Okay, so let's call it properties addition test, and let's save this test suite also. Save test suite, calculator test, and it is also asking us to save the test. Okay, I think previously it got the addition test got saved as save test suite. What is there in the calculator test? Let us see. We can directly open that HTML page here itself. We can see over here itself. Okay. Delete. Yes. Yes. Let's add a new test. I think previously when we were trying to save suite, it also asked us to save the test case. So for that we have given the name of test suite itself. So that's why I'm creating a new test case. Save the test suite, and it is saying first save the test case. Okay, that's what it is saying. So let's save the test case as addition test only, and then test. It is asking us to give a name for the test suite. So we can give a name as calculator test. Okay, so now we can close this. Let's click here and let's open the suite. Not the test case, but the suite. Okay, if I open this calculator test, now do you see it is showing both the tests, whatever I have saved. Okay, but so far we haven't done anything in the calculator test, right? So now let us try to record a small thing and try to learn where it is getting these target values from. Okay.
Okay.
I'm clicking record again.
Uh-huh.
I'm opening the same web page. Okay, and I'm typing 15 plus 69 equals something. We got something. It doesn't matter.
No.
So now it has recorded it. We can add an assertion, but it doesn't matter, right? For whatever I'm trying to show now, it really doesn't matter whether we save an assert or not. So now let's try to dig deeper into this. Do you know HTML?
Yeah.
Yeah. So HTML is a modified form of XML, right? It's a subset of XML. You have fixed
Yeah.
tags to use, and there is also called something called as XPath. You know that?
No. I don't know its part,
Okay. Don't worry about it.
but I know basics of HTML.
Yeah, that's okay. So any let's not even go till there. Let's Okay, it recorded something else also, which I really don't. Oh, I think I need this. This is the plus sign. So now if you see, for the plus sign, it has recorded as CSS equal to span.sciop, whereas for these buttons, it recorded like this, and for equals, it recorded like this. So now let's look at this first and see what actually has happened. Now, what actually you guessed partially you guessed it right when you said that it is looking at the code and trying to find out what it is actually looking at is the HTML source behind the web page. Okay,
Okay.
so if we open the page source and try to search for this, Now, if you see over here, it has pan and it has SCIOP. Okay, so now what actually is happening over here is it is looking into the source of that element in onto that entire web page. It is trying to find some information about that particular buttons or whatever that we clicked, and it is trying to get that information from there. So now if you see what that CSS is, I'll explain a bit later because CSS is a complicated one that I have picked the wrong one to show you first. Actually, let me go to another one that it has saved. Let me go to this, okay, because this is much easier for you to understand beginning, and then I'll go back to that CSS one. Asset text, where are we asserting? SCI, so let's search for this in the output. Okay, now if you see, there is something called as ID equals to SCI output. Okay, do you see something similar to that?
Okay.
ID equals to SCI output. Okay, so what
Yeah,
actually
same.
is happening is it is opening that elements whatever are there, and it is trying to find out some unique information about the element that we want to test it. Okay, so when we do that, what actually is happening is if we type, say for example, uh, if we look for this, what is this, the other element like this span, what actually it is looking for is span where on clicks on click equals to R of 3. Okay, so we should be able to see that exact value over here. Okay, so it has used
Okay.
something called as XPath. When it has these when it is starting with double slashes or slash, most of the time it is using
Mhm.
something called as XPath. XPath is a way to identify a specific tag in an HTML or an XML source. Okay, whereas for these where it doesn't start with slash, it is trying to identify the value of ID, which will be
Mhm.
unique most of the time because that is how the developers will develop. If they are good developers, they will put different IDs for every element. So for this element, what they have done is they have put an ID called as SCI output. Okay, for these elements they haven't kept any ID. Okay, if you see for this element they haven't kept any ID. That is the reason why it did not select ID equals to 3. Rather, it has selected span of on click equals to R of 3. Okay, so what it tries is it tries to identify if it has ID, whatever element that we are clicking on it, if it has ID or name or any other easily recognizable element. If it cannot find any easily recognizable element, then it goes for something called as XPath. XPath is always the last option it goes to because XPath is slower, especially when we run the test scripts on Internet Explorer. XPath is the slowest element, but sometimes we cannot use anything but XPath. Okay, because in this application, if you see, the developers did not use any ID or name for these tags. Okay, so that's where that's how we have to see. In fact, you don't even have to open the source of HTML to identify clues about that particular object. You can even right click on this object and say inspect element. Okay, when you say that, it actually tries to show that if you are using Firefox or Chrome, it has this feature of inspect element. It actually shows what exactly is the HTML source corresponding to that object, okay, to that target object, that whatever that we are trying to perform some operation. So here it has it has something called as ID equals to SCI output. So we don't have to worry about anything. So we can even write that. If you had observed, it did not put any double quotes over here, so it automatically knows that ID equals to means it will check for this value in the parameter ID for any tag, whatever tag it may be looking for. It will check if the tag has ID equals SCI output. It will simply perform this operation on that. What is that operation? doing an assert text, checking if that value is 1620 dot or not. Okay. So now that's typically what is happening when you are actually operating on this. Okay, so that is why when it has
Now we
recorded,
get the target value.
yes, the same value we are getting again and again. Now let's inspect this element and see what is actually here. Here, if you see name equals to q. Okay, now it is making sense. That is what it has recorded when we have typed something on this. Okay,
Okay.
and then when we inspect element, inspect this element, we see that name equals to sa.
Let's say.
So it's even if you record, that is what it does. Now let's assume that let's record something here and see what actually it records. Record, type, check, and click on search. Now what it did, it recorded that object as name equals to q, and then click and wait on which object, that button where name equals to sa. Okay, so that
And the
is how,
value is check.
yes, we have typed the check.
Yeah.
Okay, so that actual value we typed is check, and then so now you see what it has used. It is using, if it has id, it is using id. If it has name, it is using name. If it has none of these things, it is also using css. Okay, css is a bit complicated, that's why I'm not going to that at this point of time. And it is also using something called as xpath. Okay, so there are different ways in which it can identify. In fact, there are 6 or 8, I think, that can be used to actually identify a specific element on a page. Okay, so
Okay.
but most of these things can be satisfied by following these 4: id, name, css, and xpath.
Okay.
Okay, so now do you have any question on this?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, fantastic. Now let me just go over some other things. What I want you to do today when you go
Okay.
is that I want you to install Firefox, the Selenium IDE, okay,
Okay.
and just create a simple recording and do a
Okay.
test that actually does something different than what this test is doing.
Okay. Sure.
Okay, so I wanted to show it tomorrow before we start the session, so that if you had any doubts, we'll clarify, and then we'll continue to the subsequent activities.
Sure.
Okay,
Definitely. If you
so
could
before we,
upload this video in the drive, that will be easy for any reference.
yes, I will do that. Once the session is over, I'll upload this recording and share the link with you all.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
So now let's see what is there in the menus. Okay. Any of these things look new or something that you cannot understand?
The terminologies are like pretty familiar because Manas is teaching me with respect to all this
Yes,
in
perfect.
JUnit.
Right. So this one, so we soon will be writing some. We are actually going to write Selenium WebDriver scripts, etc. Right. So for that we will be using these things. So if we say for the export test case as JUnit for WebDriver, it actually saves. So for example, let's just save and see what happens. I just exported it as M. It has saved as a Java file. If we open the Java file, we are able to see that Java file, right? It has a test annotation. It is simply using JUnit only. Okay, it's not something
Yeah.
entirely different. So it is trying to do some operations, driver.find element and by xpath and blah 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 blah, and then it is by ID. So what you see over here is it is simply performing some operations. Okay, and those operations are converted into JUnit. So JUnit WebDriver scripts. So in when we go from tomorrow onwards, we will be looking at the WebDriver actually, instead of looking at the Selenium IDE, because most of the times you will be able to see uh, you may be able to wondering why Java, why JUnit again. If you see, if you observe, we cannot have anything like loops over here, can we?
No.
We don't have loops. We don't have for. Okay, we don't have while. Nothing. We don't have anything called as loops over here. Okay. Most of the times we will have to do some operations in a loop. Okay, we have to read the values from, say, for example, some Excel file or an XML file and put that values here. We cannot do any of those things over here. Okay.
Okay.
It is limited to the constant values, whatever that we create. Okay, and also if I'm typing, if I'm doing some operations in this test and in this test, they are always part of that test case. Okay, so what happens, say for
Okay.
example, if I have to click another button before I actually click on this multiplication, and if I have to do the same thing in other tests also, what I have to do, I have to open each and every test and change it, right?
Okay.
So it has some problems. That's the reason why we generally don't use Selenium IDE in actual automation. Okay, so but we'll be going through the WebDriver concept, which actually helps us write tests like this, okay, so that you
Mm-hmm.
can very easily develop the WebDriver test. Because you are already familiar with JUnit, you will be
Yeah.
able to correlate. You have to learn some new terminology, etc., but not so differently, not so much different than what you're actually doing currently. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it looks very similar, like what we are exactly working on with the annotations and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the structure of the code JUnit.
Yeah, in fact, it is using JUnit only. It is not using anything different. Okay, so that's why
Yeah.
when you said we are only doing JUnit, then I said right. Even with Selenium also we use JUnit. In fact, Selenium is not a framework for us to be able to do test executions and test organization, etc. JUnit is. So
Okay.
that's where the Selenium WebDriver comes into the picture. So now let's go through this and quickly see if there is something that we cannot understand. Insert new comment. We can add comments as to why we are doing that thing, which is quite evident. Okay, and here we clicked on this button, right? This is executing only
Yeah.
specific test. This will execute all the tests in a test suite. Okay, and the same way, in the action also we have those same buttons, and then play test suites periodically may mean that every hour run all the tests or every day, something like that. Schedule may be setting up. I don't want to set that schedule, but you can try that if you are interested.
Sure.
And that breakpoint. What is a breakpoint? You can you just give me a moment?
Sure.
Okay, so break your the debugging means whenever you are actually want to say, for example, find out what has gone wrong, etc. You will want to break at certain point and check the values, etc. Right?
Yeah.
You are already doing debugging, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, we already started doing
Yeah,
debugging.
so that's what these breakpoints are. Okay, so try these
Yeah.
things. You don't really have to understand everything of this because most of the times will not be using these at all. Okay.
Okay.
So apart from this, there isn't much to run for us to. There isn't much to actually understand in Selenium IDE. So if you have any questions, so probably you can ask. Otherwise, we can wind up the session for today.
I think I'm good because I need to install and check in when I try to do it, then only maybe I could get some more questions so that I can ask you in the next session.
Okay. So give it a try.
Sure.
Try to do all kinds of things, whatever is possible. Okay, and
Sure.
we'll discuss and we'll see if we want a session tomorrow. We'll have a discussion about that and we'll decide.
Okay. Sure. Anyways, I'm free. I will be at home if you guys are okay with like I can have a session at any time based on your comfort. Yes.
Yeah, we'll see about that. We'll discuss. No, I'll let you
Okay.
know about that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Okay. Fine. Yeah. As you don't have any other questions, we can drop off now. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much.